reflecting upon your journey and reflecting upon the countries you have been and past 15 years of your expertise, if you could just give us those tips for our fellow NRIs, that would be really helpful.
When I was researching on this topic, I read an article which said that 1 in 4 NRIs actually make financial mistakes, especially when they are investing in India. People don't even know basic things like what is an NRO account, what is an NRI account, what is the difference between these two. And in my channel, I've created a whole playlist which talks about even the basic things. The second key mistake is that they don't really understand NRI taxation. People who are well educated, well earning, have basic questions. They don't understand how the capital gain taxation work. And I think another key thing which I have seen, which to me was a big eye opener, was that a lot of NRIs miss important documents like will and power of attorney. If let's say you don't have a will in place and God forbidden you, let's say, pass away, the state generally picks up all your assets. Sometimes extended family members or let's say an ex-partner or colleague, they can put a claim as well. It's not, of course, easy. So having a will in place and doing your estate planning is, I would say, indispensable for NRIs.
For our valued NRI community. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a very special guest, Ms. Parul. She has over 15 years of global senior leadership experience and a double master's degree in business management. She is passionate about helping people lead a balanced and successful life through a data-driven approach. You may know her from a popular YouTube channel, Ask Parul, where she provides valuable insights, especially for NRIs. We are excited to collaborate with her on a podcast series covering crucial topics like NRI taxation, capital gains, setting up a business in India, registration and compliance requirements, just to name a few. So stay tuned for these deep dives over the coming weeks. But for now, let's dive right in with Ms. Parul. Ms. Parul, welcome to the show. No, we were looking forward to having you on our show. I've seen your videos. It's very impressive the way you explain things in a very, very simple and yet very effective manner. So it's an absolute delight to have you out here.
Thank you so much.
Parul, if you could help us, what motivated you to get into YouTube blogging and creating content? What passionates you?
Just like any ambitious professional, I have gone through my own journey of ups and downs in my corporate life, in my personal life, and also in my financial journey. And a few years back, I didn't really had a deep thought into what I'm going to make. Of course, my content has evolved in last couple of years, but when I started content creation, I think the only thing which I had in my mind is that how can I make an impact? And what am I good at? What have I learned in my entire corporate experience and the life that I have lived? And I think because as a person, I feel that, and that's my motto, which is basically the motto of my channel as well, that if you look at any young professional, what are the key things that people struggle with the most? I think there are key things, and which is, I would say, universal across everyone. One is that you want a successful career, you want a personal well-being, and at the same time money is really important, the financial well-being. And I have had multiple experiences across these three pillars, and I felt that if I can create a channel with a value proposition that if you can focus on these three pillars in your life, I would say 80 to 90% of your life is sorted. So that's the motto of my channel.
So then this brings us to today's podcast topic, where we would be discussing the top 7 or top 5 mistakes, I would say, the NRIs should avoid. So reflecting upon your journey and reflecting upon the countries you have been and past 15 years of your expertise, if you could just give us those tips for our fellow NRIs, that would be really helpful.
I have seen a lot of NRIs, especially my friends, family members, colleagues, sometimes making these mistakes. And I read an article when I was researching on this topic. I read an article which said that 1 in 4 NRIs actually make financial mistakes, especially when they are investing in India. And as a non-resident of India, as an NRI who is living abroad, people are naturally tempted to invest in India because India is a booming economy, it's a growing economy. But NRI taxation and NRI investments is a whole beast altogether, I would say. And when I started researching, I realized that there are tons and tons of information available, and there is a natural content gap in this field. Yes, you can go to government websites, but you are loaded with too much of information that for a normal person it becomes almost next to impossible to make sense of it. But coming to some mistakes which I have seen, I think the common one is that people still hold their savings account. So a lot of people, when they are resident Indians, they of course have a savings account or a current account, and even if they become an NRI, they either don't know that you have special accounts like NRO accounts and NRE accounts that one needs to have. And I've seen this is the most common mistake, I would say, but you would be knowing, right, Mr. Chetan, that the FEMA laws clearly state that when you become an NRI, you need to redesignate your accounts as NRO and NRE accounts. And same is for the trading accounts or the demat accounts as well. You need to redesignate those accounts instead of savings account or resident accounts to NRI accounts, and that should be linked to your NRO bank account. People don't even know basic things like what is an NRO account, what is an NRE account, what is the difference between these two, these. The second key mistake I've seen people making is that they don't really understand NRI taxation. So it's so surprising that people who are well educated, well earning, have basic questions like, oh, TDS got deducted, so much tax got deducted, and I explained to them that TDS is not the final tax, by the way. So people don't even know that the same ATC or ATD which is applicable to resident is also applicable to NRI. So they don't understand how the capital gain taxation work. So I think it's very important that if you have investments back in India, like a property or mutual funds, which in my experience, most people do have, or even they continue to have bank accounts, it's very important to understand the tax implications. And I always keep saying that even if you're not well aware, you should always have good relationship with a chartered accountant back in India who can at least guide you about the ever-changing taxation, because taxation keeps changing and we see which instruments can be good for you. So just to give you an example, like Public Provident Fund, right, PPF, of course, as an NRI, you can't open a new account, but let's assume if you have a PPF account before you became an NRI, you can still continue to contribute in that, I believe, until 15 years, until it gets matured or something like that. Yeah. And the interest is tax-free, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. So I think those things are important for people to be aware that in my experience, I feel that there are only two ways to grow the wealth. One is that the right investments, the second is saving taxes in a legal way. So I think it's important that people are aware about instruments and how well they can leverage the instruments back in India. So that was the second mistake. I think another key thing which I've also seen people doing is that they speak a lot about the NRI FDs, especially because it's tax-free in India, which is great. NRI FDs is tax-free, but they also forget to see two aspects. One is that the FD rates are always related to inflation. So if you are just earning slightly above or even slightly less than the inflation for a long period of time, then the overall portfolio gets a low return overall. And of course, I'm in no way, or like I said, I'm not a financial planner. I'm not pitching that FDs is bad or this is good. I'm not saying that. But what I'm trying to say is that one must also invest in equities as per their risk appetite and as per their long-term horizon, rather than just parking all the money in NRI FDs just because it's tax-free. It is tax-free, yes, but it is an income still in your country of residence, right? So that is something that you also need to be aware that whatever interest income you're generating on an NRE, you still have to pay tax as a foreign income in your country of residence. Yes, so that is something I always say, that just to weigh your pros and cons on equity versus debt and see which one makes most sense.
And there are many instruments, as you said, that apart from FD, one could look at depending on the risk appetite. So one, you mentioned equity, but if you can't invest directly into equity, you should look at mutual funds for that matter. And there are multiple of them, hybrid funds, which has a mix of both equity and debt. But I'm not, as you said, we are not advocating any but then, yes, they should explore them, because FD would fetch you earlier till a certain point in time, and that would be closer to the inflation rate. And at the end of the day, if you are not accumulating that wealth or you're not growing your corpus, then that investment also does not make sense. It's just protecting your principal and you're not generating any return, alpha return.
Yeah. I think another key thing which I have seen, which to me was a big eye opener, was that a lot of NRIs miss important documents like will and power of attorney. So I think if I can pick up one amongst all the mistakes, then this is the biggest one. Because what happens is, especially in countries where I have stayed, or where, for example, even in Australia, if let's say you don't have a will in place and God forbidden you, let's say, pass away, then what happens is that the state generally picks up all your assets. When I say assets, it's cash, bank accounts, real estate, whatever. And they would generally try to understand that who is the closest person who has the rights. Now, in cases, I have seen that sometimes extended family members, or let's say an ex-partner or colleague, they can put a claim as well. It's not, of course, easy. There are rules and regulation in place, and I'm not a lawyer by any chance, and it's not a legal advice, but I have read about cases where, especially for people who are staying overseas, they have their dependents back in India, aging parents or kids or whatever, maybe siblings, etc. It can become a big challenge, and a long legal battle needs to be fought to get those rights. So having a will in place and doing your estate planning is, I would say, indispensable for NRIs. And through your channel also, I would like to request all the NRIs who are watching this, then do get in touch with a lawyer or a solicitor in your country of residence and discuss your unique circumstances so that your legacy is protected.
Yes.
Life is unpredictable. We just don't know what will happen to us tomorrow, and all your hard-earned money, it can become very difficult for your dependents if you don't have a legal will in place.
This is very important, which you just mentioned, the estate planning. Many are doing their retirement planning or their children's future education, whatever they are planning for, but they miss out on estate planning, and this is very crucial for all the reasons, right reasons which you just mentioned.
Yeah, like I said, I think I wasn't aware about it, frankly speaking. I thought that, you have put the beneficiaries in, let's say, a bank account or etc. That's enough, but that's not enough. Like I said, every country has different rules, but as far as my knowledge is concerned, most Western countries operate similar. I know in UK also, because my sister is based there, it's similar laws. So being aware, I think, people don't even think about that, it can happen with us. But anything can happen at any point of time. It's not just that you may pass away, but let's say the power of attorney is also for situations where, let's say, you're not mentally stable to make decisions, and then who can make a financial decision on your behalf.
Yeah.
So all those things are covered in a power of attorney, and I feel that we should just try to protect our legacy. As you rightly said, estate planning is very important. I think another mistakes I have seen people doing is, and again, there is no this right or wrong thing, but sometimes I have seen people that they have, let's say, a real estate or a property back in India, and of course, managing a property while you're overseas has its own hassles and challenges. And sometimes these NRIs don't even wish to come back to India, or their plan is not very clear. So what they might do is that they'll keep maintaining a property in India for the sake of it. They'll keep paying huge rents abroad. Most of these countries are they have very expensive rents. The real estate is really highly liquid. So I think, but they won't probably buy a house. Again, like I said, there's no right or wrong answers to it. And again, it's important that one does their own financial planning or take help of professional, but think logically if maintaining a property in India makes sense or doesn't make sense, or if that money is best used to buy a property in your country of residence. I think thinking about all those scenarios is really important. Other few mistakes what I have seen is that they keep delaying their investments. We'll go maybe next year, and you would be knowing, right, that in investments the power of compounding works best when you invest early and for an extended period of time. And India is growing, definitely. India is a growing market as far as my knowledge is concerned. So I think, and don't rely on your friends or family or your bank relationship manager for advice. A lot of people do that, my friend told me that, so that's a very, I would say, immature way of looking at things. Work with a professional who specializes and who can create a customized plan for you, maybe a dedicated chartered accountant or a financial planner, and just don't be a do-it-yourself sort of person if you don't have expertise. There are some people who have expertise, like real expertise, and that's fine, absolutely. But if you are somebody who don't have expertise or who is short on time, then work with a professional.
So Parul, this has been really insightful, these tips which you just mentioned. These are eye openers. They may sound very common to some, but then these are very, very important, very, very critical. So my viewers, I would request, do watch out for Parul's video, which she had mentioned earlier. She has covered a detailed video made. In her video, she has explained over 11 points which you should note, which you should take care of. So this is really, really important for you to look at and take it as a habit out of your financial life. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Like I said, I think whatever I've learned, I like sharing with people, and thanks to experts like you and few others that I've collaborated with, I think at least I'm hopeful we all jointly can influence people. We can't change people. I think what people have to do, it's totally their own decision, but at least we can
bring the right knowledge.
Provide them some information, or maybe pivot them in the right direction that they can take the necessary steps.
That pivot is very important and very essential. So thank you, Parul. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute delight and absolute pleasure to have you. And we hope we continue to make such good content with you, and look forward to meeting you again. Thank you so much.
Much pleasure.